Hey guys, Rob here at 3D Printscape. So the 3D scanning technology has been around for quite a while now, but it has mostly been inaccessible to hobbyists. There are some scanners that are available that are geared towards hobbyists, but overall they require a lot of setup. You have to connect with another device, so your phone or whatever, to do the actual scanning, and then you have to process everything on your computer. So there's a lot of back and forth, and it can be very time consuming, and the results haven't always been the best, at least from my experience. But the AIScan O1, which I have here, is really the first all-in-one 3D scanner that simplifies the process end to end, and it's really a leap forward into 3D scanning technology. It allows you to basically do everything except slice the STL file on the device itself. And it uses AI behind the scenes to help get the best results possible. I think this device might actually make it so that it's worth actually having one of these in your workshop or with your 3D printing setup. And I managed to get my hands on one of them before it even went to Kickstarter. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick unboxing, walk through setup, go through the first scan, editing the file, and kicking off a print. I'm going to follow this video up with a more in-depth review once I've had a week or two to actually work with it. But I wanted to get this out just to kind of show you guys the new technology and the AIScan O1 as quickly as possible. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, guys, so here we got the AIScan O1. I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick unboxing just to see what we got with it. First thing, that's a bit different. The back came off, but it looks like there's a note for creators, so I'll set that aside for now. Instruction manual, the actual scanner itself, a case, which probably has some accessories in it. We'll open it in a second, and a carrier bag with a couple markers and a mirror. All right, let's go ahead and open up this case, see what we got. We have a turntable and a USB cable for power, a test statue, I assume, clips for the camera, tripod, a wrist clip for the scanner, USB to USB-C adapter, a couple extra accessories here, and it looks like this is a mount for the tripod, and then a microfiber cloth for the screen. And here's a power base, USB cable for that, and multiple power adapters for whatever region you're located in. All right, let's go ahead and take the actual scanner out of this packaging. Overall, just first impressions here, seems pretty well built. The materials don't feel cheap. On the back here, we've got a lot of different lenses. We'll go over those in more detail. And then the screen on the front, there's a screen protector as well. You can take that off. I'm going to go ahead and just power it on really quick, see what it looks like. And then this is going to walk through the setup process. So go ahead and select your language here, then hit continue. Connect to the Wi-Fi network, so it's going to search, choose your network, and put your credentials in. Hit continue. Select your time zone. Then once you've selected your time zone, go ahead and select continue. You can opt into the user experience program or not, then use network time and auto update. So I am going to auto update, and I'll just opt into the user experience program. Then accept to their terms of service, because again, you don't have a choice. All right, now it's going to walk you through a tutorial. I suggest going through that. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the first scan. I'm scanning the sample model that it came with. This is actually a good sample, which is why a lot of the 3D scanners come with it, because there's a lot of detail. I zoomed in here as much as I can just to try to show you what it actually looks like on screen, and so that you can see what I'm doing. But the light from the actual scanner does kind of mess with the video a little bit, so I apologize for that. But let's go ahead and show you a few things. First thing up top, there is a button that says AI. If you click that, you can go through the different modes. I'm going to go through Universal Standard today, which is going to be the one you're going to use probably most time. And then right here, you can switch between near and far and adjust a couple of settings. So if you're doing a scan that has marker alignment, you switch to marker alignment here and then not geo align. If there's specific textures you want to make sure that are aligned, you would turn that off instead of just geo align. But I would say for all of the ones I've done so far, with the exception of a barrel, like a wood barrel that I did, I left it on geo align and near. And then down here, you have the scan distance. Adjusting this will adjust where the actual line is for your camera. So you can see I set it to further out and now it's red. You want to keep that in the green. So I'll zoom this back in a little bit. and now we're back in the green. And another thing to note, I'm using pretty much a blank piece of cardboard for the background that I have this on, and then a little elevation underneath the turntable. The higher you can get this and the more of a plain surface you have in the background, the less cleanup there's going to have to be. But if you can see kind of here in the back of the photo or a video where my floor is like a wood texture, with that it actually shows up as a base texture, kind of like how this is doing right here, which you can adjust a little bit. And then it will have to be removed afterwards or in the post-processing. So the more you can isolate the object and have a clean background, the better the results are going to be. But let's go ahead and start the scan. You can see that it's starting to map all of the objects. It's showing you the frames per second, the frames, and how many points it's doing. I typically let this go around a couple times, and then I will process the mesh once, see if there are any gaps, which it will show you where the gaps are, and then turn the model to address the gaps and then continue the scan. All right, that looks pretty good. Now if you go ahead and just hit the check button, you'll save the model and then go into a processing mode. So just go ahead and hit that. We're going to fuse, so just do a fuse. This is a high detail model, so we're going to go ahead and go to the highest detail if it's not there already, and then hit apply. You can see where it shows the background a little bit, so that'll have to be cleaned up, which is easy to do. We'll get to that part in a couple minutes. But the important thing right now is we want to go to AI detection. We should be able to see where the gaps are or what's missing from the scan itself. So it's showing here, so underneath the chin, the bottom, and a little bit here at the top. So what we're going to do is just flip the model so that it can get those, and then go ahead and continue the scanning. And it should pick up the model, and within probably half a rotation or a rotation, it'll see that it changed the orientation and start mapping in the missing parts. So you can see here that it's starting to map the bottom and just more detail around the rest of the parts that it can capture from this angle. All right, and then once that's done, you're going to go ahead and pause it again, and then you can check. You see that it filled in the gaps here just in the real-time view mode, and then go into editing, and then we'll go ahead and fuse it again. All right, once that's done, you can check the AI detection again to see if there's any more gaps, but I know it'll be good at this point. You want to go ahead and start cleaning out all of the stuff from the background. The more you had as far as background noise, the more that's going to have to be cleaned up. But there's two options. The first one is plane removal. If you select this and then select one of the areas, it will remove everything on that plane. Typically I don't use that, so I'll just deselect it. What I do is select either square or lasso, so go into here, and then with this you can just select areas you want to remove. So let's say here I want to remove this. You can either select it as a square, and then it brings up this little thing on the left where you can see the square is fine for larger areas, but as you can see it's a little bit more difficult to avoid the model. So when you're getting close to the model, what I do is I use the lasso and just kind of select around it, and then pay attention up on the left to where I'm actually selecting. Make sure that I'm not actually hitting the model itself. And then once you select a part, just delete. So select those, delete, and zooming in and stuff on the model and maneuvering it, just hit rotation. So you can only either use one of the selection tools or have it in rotate mode. And it's similar to just using an iPhone screen. So it's pretty straightforward and easy. Zoom in and out, move on the different axes and such. So we got all of that we want to remove. So you'll continue to just go around the model, remove all of the parts, and then when you're done, then we'll go to the next step, which is creating the mesh itself. This looks slightly different because I went to a different model that I already had working, so I didn't have to re-edit that one, but it was just one of the scans I did. So go to mesh, select whatever detail level you're working with. So in this case, it's going to be fine. And then if you have holes, you might want to select the auto hole fill. I typically don't use this. And by default, PLY format is going to be selected. If you're going to be printing with a 3D printer, most of the time you're going to want STL. Most slicers will work with that. And then go ahead and hit apply. After it runs through that processing, it gives you this mesh here. So you'll be able to go into texture and then just confirm whether you're ready to apply the textures or reapply them if you've already done it once, and just hit confirm. And then at that point, you're ready to go ahead and transfer it to your computer and print. So this has been the easiest experience I've had with a 3D scanner, going from actually scanning the model, editing it, and getting it ready to print. Don't have to worry about connections dropping with mobile devices, going to the computer to use their software to do the editing, realizing there's gaps, and then you have to go back and redo it. Having this as an all-in-one device is actually really nice, and I appreciate that. And like I mentioned towards the beginning of the video, this thing is a powerhouse. They got 32 gig of memory in here and an 8-core processor. It's able to do quite a bit. All right, the next thing we need to do is get our STL file off of the scanner itself. If you have a Windows machine, when you connect the scanner to the computer, it should show up as a drive under My Computer, and then you'll be able to go into Project and then choose the file name and then choose the folder for the project you're working with. On Mac, it's a little bit more complicated, and that's what I'm running, so I'm going to show you that. First, you need to download a software like MacDroid. It just allows you to connect to the Android operating system the scanner is running. And once it's powered on, you should see the device automatically connect here, and just hit Show in Folder. And basically, it gives you an overview, and then you can actually browse the file system. So for Mac, you go into Storage, Self, Primary, Data, Project, and then choose the project you are working with. And it shows you on the actual scanner itself what the project name is. Or if it's the newest project, if you sort by date modified, it'll be towards the top. Once you're into the project, you'll want to copy out the STL file. So this is the STL for the project I was working with. And then you can take this and import it directly into your slicer. All right, so I've got Bambu Studio open. I'm just going to drag the file in. And then from here, you just orientate it so that the bottom is flush with the build plate, and then go ahead and kick it off. Now, this print is a difficult one to actually print because of the overhang and stuff with the nose and the hair. As you can see with the couple examples I'll show you here, that still needs to be dialed in to find the best way to print this, but you can still take the results from the scan and print it. All right. So I went ahead and just orientated the model so that it was flat at the bottom. If you're not going to use supports, make sure you at least use a brim, which you can find that setting under Advanced. Just make sure that's enabled and go under Other. Then you can see the brim setting. So just set it to inner, outer, or just outer. But inner, outer is what I typically do. And then the width of the brim. So I'll just do that, I don't know, 10 millimeter. Then we can slice it and then just go ahead and print build plate. And that's really all there is to it. Now that we walked through the entire process, I wanted to show you a couple of the prints I did. So the first one, which was the main example I wanted to show in this video, was taking the statue that was provided. We scanned that, went through the editing process, and I went in and sliced it and printed it. I did 2 prints. I was playing around with 2 different options. So this first one was at 100% scale without any supports. And as you can see, there are issues just around the actual hair and stuff, but that's a result of the overhang and printing with a 3D printer, not the scanner itself. I printed one with supports, but that type of detail is difficult to actually get all of the support material off, so it still doesn't look as great as it could be. This one I scaled down to, I think it was 75%. And I did try to print one more here that failed. I tried to print this without using a brim, and once it got towards the top, it just knocked itself over, or the printer nozzle knocked it over, and basically I had to stop the print. So if you are going to print something like this, make sure to use a brim or a raft, but the brim is easier to take off. And I also showed you guys this little barrel here. It's an example of just using a round object with the markers. I printed one of the copies of this at 75% scale just to show you what it would look like. I did not clean it up, so still some post-processing work to be done on the print itself, but just to show you the results from scanning it and that I was able to actually print it. Now I wanted to give you my final verdict so far. So I've only had limited hands-on experience with it, but so far this has been the easiest scanner I've been able to use out of the box. I've used probably about a half a dozen other models, and this being an all-in-one device with the AI assistance helps quite a bit. I was able to go through and scan the actual object itself, edit it and everything on the device which was awesome. Didn't have to worry about connection issues to any of the other devices. The AI was able to point out where there were gaps in the data missing, so we were able to fix that during the processing. And I really do think this scanner is going to be a game changer in the actual 3D scanning space. So I'm looking forward to this actually being released and more people getting their hands on it to provide their thoughts. If you found value in this video or any of my other videos, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. It'll really help the channel grow. And if you have any questions about what I covered here today, would like to see any additional things scanned that I can try to scan for you, or just have any questions in general, go ahead and leave a comment below or join us on Discord.